methods. How can you basically grow your business in a completely digital world? And then you've obviously got the advent of AI and everything that comes with it. Is it easier? Is it more difficult to run an e-com business? I think that's what we're going to talk about today. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Clinton and Renier. We're going to have a pretty informal discussion, whereas we're normally a little more formal and measured, and we've got a presentation. Today, I think we'll have part of that, but we're probably going to focus more on a Q&A than anything else. So, Clinton, over to you.
Thanks, Thomas, and good morning, everyone. Welcome. And Renier, thanks for joining. Good to see you again. And yeah, like Thomas said, we will speak through some of the topics that Thomas already mentioned, emerging market, the SMEs involvement with AI, and so forth. We will share a bit of a presentation, but we'll speak to it a bit more than purely going on the presentation. So today we do want to look at how do we scale SMEs, and how do SMEs scale their success through e-commerce and digital growth. For us, one of those items that we want to look at is what has been the boom in the e-commerce side in South Africa specifically, and internationally as well, and some of the hurdles that our SMEs also face in that transformation from going brick and mortar to purely digital, or at least hybrid. And then our lessons that we're learning, when we're scaling the tech in the larger enterprises, and then what role does cash flow play in that, and funding in that digital growth. So when we look at the surge that we're seeing in South Africa, we looked at some of the metrics going back a year or two, and we noticed in 2023 we had a market roughly around 71 billion rand, up from 55 billion just the year before. So quite a significant increase, 29% year-on-year growth. And we're also looking at a high smartphone penetration, where that mobile first shopping is really coming up. And we're looking at the 82% of South Africans that use smartphones, but we're seeing when people are shopping these days, the first thing they do is they open their cell phone, they unlock their cell phone, and they see, how do I access a deal? How do I access products, services? And this gives us this rise of, the shop anywhere. Wherever I am, I don't have to open, catalog and newspaper. I don't have to walk into a shop. I can look on my phone, I get the products, and I generally want to order it from there. And I think maybe, Renier, after the introduction, maybe a question to you first is, why do you think we're seeing this growth in that e-commerce market in specifically South Africa and potentially wider?
Yeah, thanks, Clinton. I think South Africans working in the tech space have forever been frustrated with the slow adoption of e-commerce. I mean, ever since the launch of Kalahari. Anybody still remember Kalahari.net? They had great TV ads. And everybody thought, the same thing that happened in America would happen here, but it never really took off to the extent that what it took off in the likes of Europe and America. And I think some of the primary reasons are South Africa is quite a dispersed. We've got lots of land, so people live in metros, but not as concentrated as the likes of New York, where 11 million people live close to each other. I mean, our big metros have 1 million, 1.5, 2 million people. So logistics is a challenge for e-commerce. And South Africa, that's always been a challenge. Some things have changed there now. And I think the thing that has driven that the most is likely what happened in COVID. So COVID forced all of us to go into lockdown. If you wanted to buy something, you had to buy it online. And that just meant a lot more people were willing to try buying online. And when that happened, the people caught up. So logistics players came on board. They said, cool, now we have scale. Now we can deliver in different places in South Africa. So more adoption on the adoption side meant more services being offered, like last mile as a service, logistic services, which then meant more people could actually end up building e-commerce sites and building small little e-commerce stores. So the adoption in e-commerce over the last 5 years have been massive. We're seeing more and more of that, as some of the bigger players come on board and roll out their solutions. I think Checker 6060 played a massive role in adoption as well of buying online. And we can now see Woolworths and Pick n Pay and Spar, and all of them have very similar offerings, all competing. Great for the consumer, but also great because it becomes easier and cheaper for small businesses to now launch because there are logistics players in place that want their business and can offer it at great competitive rates.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks, Renier. Great insights there, and thank you for that. I think, yeah, definitely COVID accelerated this up to the point where we probably wouldn't have seen it if it wasn't for that. What we're also seeing on our end, and we're looking at our customers, and our customers are widespread across industries. We're looking at security, manufacturing, and obviously we're looking at quite a bit in terms of retail. And we're seeing our customers coming more and more towards us for their funding reasons, looking for, wanting to launch a digital storefront. They need inventory for their online sales. The guys want to actually have the stock. We're seeing some of these e-commerce retailers, they're selling items that they're not necessarily stocking yet. So they're selling the items, buying it from the provider, and then shipping it off directly. But we are seeing in our customer space people asking for funding for inventory that they want to keep, as well as storage. And then I think, Renier, as you spoke to the courier or the delivery enablement for these guys to actually leverage those logistics that's been put in place. And then specifically also looking at a digital marketing spend. We're seeing more of that come up in our customers. And some of the hurdles that they're facing is they don't have the capital for that. They don't have the capital to get it started, or traditionally what they thought would have been the requirements to get it started. Not necessarily looking at what is currently available. And then also, not necessarily sure of the right tech or the partner. And I think, don't know if you maybe want to weigh in there already. We're also looking at the question, how does then AI enable this e-commerce growth?
Yeah, no, thanks, Clinton. I think there's never been a more exciting time for anybody interested in starting an e-commerce business to do it now. Like the likes of Shopify, a WooCommerce plugin running on WordPress. There's lots of different options to get going with the tech side, the website and web app side of the e-commerce business, right? And it's become really easy to do. So Shopify, as an example, setting it up from here, it's pretty much help yourself, click through, set up, drag and drop your store. You can use a free template, you can buy a template. So that's pretty straightforward to set up. But what's even more exciting is the payment providers that have come online, but built plugins specifically to work with the likes of a Shopify. So, you can get Peach payments and get yourself set up there and get that connected fairly easily with basically zero technical skills. Now, that's one part of e-commerce, is getting your storefront up. The second part is the logistics. I've mentioned that there are companies out there that now offer logistics as a service. So, the likes of Pudo, Courier Guy, Uber is launching a package service. There are so many different ones that are now offering affordable delivery services, which you can then sort out. That's the second part of e-commerce. And then the third one is like, how do you attract customers? Now, this is where a lot of traditional e-commerce players before AI found it really challenging, because this meant you had to hire a marketing expert. You had to hire someone that understands social media, someone that can develop a campaign, someone that can design it. And this is a really costly exercise. Now, with the rise of AI and tools like ChatGPT, Grok, even Gemini, one can actually go about, and I would recommend getting the paid for version, but for a paid for version of 400 Rand a month for one of these AI tools, one can use that to actually develop a marketing strategy. Will it be better than a professional? Probably not, but will it be good enough for you to get started? Absolutely. So what AI has really done is it's enabled us to be multi-skilled. So you need to write content, copy for your website. You can use AI to do that. You need to create campaigns for social media. You can develop entire strategy using AI. You can then go forth and actually create the visuals that you want to use in your social media campaigns. Couple that with something like Canva that has a bunch of templates. And Canva is a great free option, by the way. and it's only 800 Rand a year, I think, if you paid for the pro version. You can build fantastically looking creative that can help you run your social media. Then the final step here is now you want to advertise on social media. You want to run Instagram ads, and that can be quite complicated. So often you would either have to go through a course or learn. But what I found, which is really easy to do, is to ask ChatGPT or any other AI-based tool to help you set up this campaign. So they take you step by step, and whenever you get stuck, you can actually screenshot your screen, give it to ChatGPT and say, I don't know what to do next. And it will literally prompt you and say, what you need to do is step 1, step 2, step 3. So it's really helping someone that is a solo entrepreneur, side hustler, or small business that doesn't have the capacity to hire external experts to become multi-skilled enough to be able to do this. So using tools like Shopify, great payment integrations, great delivery, and then building your online presence and your marketing. All of that can now be done from a very, very low cost base, which is super exciting for e-commerce.
Awesome. Thanks, Renier. I'm also going to bring Thomas in to add some comments on this topic.
Yeah, Renier. So something that like everything that you're talking about now, a couple of weeks back, I actually went on to Shopify, registered on the platform, went to YouTube, watched the Shopify tutorial video, like a 1 hour video that tells you exactly, point and click. So everything that you're describing here, like I wanted to go through that process myself a little bit. And it is incredibly simple to do. To what extent do you think it's so simple that it's actually more difficult to run an e-com store today and be differentiated and have any kind of moat where you're going to stay relevant to a market? That was one thing that occurred to me, and then I was thinking,
That's a great
what do I
question.
want to sell? What do I want to sell? I don't know. So yeah.
Yeah, so great question, Thomas. So let's say we live now in a world where, every physical store is now online, right? So now I think the exact same rules apply that applies in the physical world, right? So 1, is my product better than someone else's product? Okay. And 2, very importantly, and often underestimated, can I get a specific product, even if it's not better? Can I get a specific product to someone that wants that product and meet them at the right place and the right time? So if you think about a retail store, typically one of the key considerations would be, will the kind of people that would want to buy this kind of product walk past my store, right? So similarly, if you take that to the online world, will I be able to find that niche customer that actually wants to buy my product, and will that product be good enough for them? So that's one consideration. The second one is this the best product for people to buy at the best possible price? So I think that from a strategic perspective, that remains very relevant. So in the olden days, you could win simply by having the tech up because it was so hard to get online. That's now shifted. So the bar has shifted. Can we differentiate on product, and can we find the right people? So I've always loved the examples. I found it fascinating. Like overseas, a lot of people are building drop shipping businesses. Now, drop shipping businesses don't work that well in South Africa due to import controls and logistics, etc. Some people pull it off. It's just really hard to do. But in America, some people would simply connect a Shopify store directly to a supplier in China, but they'll find very niche products. And a friend of mine actually built a store to sell jewelry for people who love Labradors. Okay, now extremely niche market, but it would be like a little bracelet with a Labrador on, a gold one, a silver one with a word and a Labrador, etc. And then they'll go onto Meta and they'll hyper target people that love Labradors because they all hang out in groups to share pictures of Labradors, and then they'll just e-commerce straight in. Wasn't necessarily the best product. The price was quite high, but no one else was selling jewelry for Labrador lovers, and they managed to make good money simply by connecting these people. So that's a good example of finding the right place, or finding the right people, or manage to find the right people online that want to buy a very specific product, and then fulfilling that, even though the product isn't necessarily super cheap or based in category.
Awesome. Thanks, Renier. Thanks, Thomas. Yeah, I mean, we've also outlined here some of those steps, specifically speaking to AI, how that can help. And even without AI, just having these platforms and how they natively integrate with each other just makes it that much easier. From Lula's perspective, we've given a bit of an indication as well, where we get involved and where we're seeing customers leveraging our services or our products, specifically right at the beginning, is that initial capital. They're coming over to Lula for capital, for funding, just to get started. So, that initial cost of bringing the WooCommerce up, getting the paid version of some of those products as well, the subscriptions, and then specifically speaking to the inventory, just getting those things up and covering those first few orders. We're seeing also the linking of cards, where the card systems are actually or the cards for Lula is actually being linked as payments on those platforms. And then specifically also looking at that tracking of the spend, Renier. I think you spoke to that, and I think you made an example previously also of, how easy it is to actually just, look at leads, enrich that data, and then get some insights into the customer. Don't know if you maybe want to give some of the guys
sure.
on the call here some insight into that.
So one of the very exciting things happening in tech right now is how these tools that allow you to connect different kind of tools with each other. And example would be Zapier. That's the most well-known one, Zapier, but Zapier is quite expensive. Another one that I use is called Make.com. And then the third one, which is more popular under the slightly more technical people, simply because of its native integration into AI and its ability to build agents, is called N8N. So you can check those ones out, Make.com, N8N, and Zapier. And what these tools do is they allow different apps to speak to each other. So an example would be you've got a payment that comes in. That payment, let's say via Peach. Peach has an API. You can use a tool to capture that payment and capture the customer details, and then send that straight into a Google Sheet. And from the Google Sheet, you can process that data and compare it to your marketing spend. So you can build all of these integrations to actually automate some of the reporting, the workflows. You can even plug in OpenAI API and get it to write an automated customized email to a new customer. And that's super easy to do. It will take you about 30 minutes to set that up. So as you get a new customer, instead of just going, here's your order value, why don't you pass whatever they bought into OpenAI, instruct it to, put a bit of humor to it if that's your brand, and then write a custom email that actually says, well, thank you for buying this item. I hope you enjoy it. Please let us know what you think about it. And that could be, Thomas, speaking about differentiating, when you get that first customer, that could be a way to differentiate, like using AI in a creative way to actually delight your customers post-purchase. And start building that relationship. E-commerce is a lot about top of mindness. If you look at what Takealot is doing, they're trying to be top of mind all the time. Why? Because physical stores are top of mind because you drive past them or walk past them. Like I drive past the Spar every day of my life. Like I think of Spar all the time. I don't see Takealot everywhere I go. So Takealot have to invest a lot to be top of mind and make sure that I'm their preferred place to go and buy online. So if you can stand out, if you can use tools to automate, be interesting, differentiate yourself that way, that's a very cool thing to do, and it's a good way to retain customers. So, but coming back to the automation tools, you can connect anything like Xero. If you use Xero for accounting, anything that has an API you can connect. And once again, like these things would have been really difficult for me to do 3 years ago as I'm not a developer. But OpenAI ChatGPT has made it super easy for me. So what do? I go into ChatGPT and I say, I want to connect my Shopify store to my Xero accounting system to create a report that tells me X, Y, and Z. Then it will literally go step for step. Step 1, go to Make.com, create a scenario, connect your Xero account. Step 2, link it to Shopify, and it will show you exactly what to do. I've even at times when it doesn't work, taken a screenshot of the automation I tried to build, given it back to ChatGPT, and asked it what's wrong, and then it would actually find a fault for me and tell me change this thing to that, and then it will work. And most of the times it actually does work. So it's this great companion to just help you do things that otherwise weren't possible. And you can do great reporting, automation, linking different things to each other. You almost feel like a developer because you can now build things which in the past would have cost you millions to get a developer to do. You can literally build within a few minutes yourself. So Yeah, it's a whole new world.
Thanks, Renier. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so I think just some advice that we're going to give, and we'll open it up to the audience as well. But I mean, we're looking at e-commerce. It's no longer an optional thing, right? I mean, you have to have that presence. You have to have the online presence. It's about starting simply, but at least starting. Like, we have to get started somewhere. Like, a lot, I think, business plan, they wait for the, ideas to come in, they wait for the platforms to be created, or they wait for money to come in order to pay people to do it. And I think here we have the opportunity where, quite easily as an SME, we can actually just get started on that. And then I think it comes down to, after we have that idea, that success looks at, our tech, having the cash, and then having the team. We are seeing that, you don't necessarily need a lot of cash. You don't even need a big team because of the AI that's coming in there, but it is needed when we scale up. I think in terms of challenges, I don't know, Renier, if you want to maybe get started just looking at some of the biggest challenges that we are facing in going digital. And I think then thereafter, we'll open it to the audience a bit.
Yeah, thanks, Lyndon. I think the biggest challenge is just how long it takes to get traction. Because often one has to do a bit of investment, even with these automations and, spending time building stuff yourself. You're going to be investing some time, which is time you're going to be taking away from other areas of your business, right? And then, you put the online store in, maybe you start running some ads. It takes a lot of time to get the kind of traction and to see how well it works. And often one or two things happen. Either people then over invest time, which damages other parts of their business, or they give up and they underinvest. So walking the fine balance between, I'm still spending enough time on this to give it a good shot, because I know it's probably going to take 12 months for this to be like work well and get the kind of traction that we were looking for. It's on the other side, you just need to manage that time. I think that's one of the major challenges. And then, I think something that is very relevant in the digital world, which has less of an impact in, the non-digital space. In the digital world, one has to iterate quite a lot, right? So you have to try things and you have to try new things, and you have to, this ad that I ran didn't work, so let me try a new thing. So you have to constantly iterate and try different things. Those habits of iteration isn't natural to people who don't come from a space where they built digital products before. So it makes one a bit uncomfortable, and having to constantly try things, and you're going to try 100 things, 99 won't work, one will work well, and then you'll cement that one in, and you'll keep trying things along those lines, and then you'll introduce 99 more things, of which 95 won't work, and you've got 5 things that work. So that habit of being the habits of constantly trying and being okay with stuff failing is a difficult one. And then finally, I think customer service in the e-commerce space can be quite challenging. Now, why we don't think about that is I buy from Takealot, and I think out of all the things that I've bought, I've never had any customer support query, bar maybe once. So my perception is that customer support for e-commerce isn't a big deal. But if you speak to anyone that works for Takealot, they'll tell you it's quite complicated. So you get people that got the wrong orders. As you scale, you might send the wrong thing accidentally. You get people that are unhappy with the product. You get people that are taking chances that aren't even unhappy. They just want a refund, and not, you've got to deal with some scammers along the way. So there's a lot of those challenges. And the best way to learn how to deal with that is to manage your risk, like understand the risk associated as you go along, but then try and iterate. Like, you're going to learn if a customer tries to do X, Y, and Z, there's a specific way how you can deal with that. And that becomes something you can document. If you have staff, you can tell them and equip them how to deal with those circumstances. But customer service in e-commerce is a challenge. If you do it well, it's a strength, because they'll come back, they'll tell other people about it. So a great opportunity there as well. So those are some of the biggest ones. But yeah, I think AI can help you solve some of that as well. Like, even if a customer sends you certain feedback, pop it in AI and go, I want to be polite but also fair. Like, what should I say?
Yeah, how do I
Can help
come
you.
across patient and compassionate, huh?
Yes. I'm not going to be patient when I chat to you, ChatGPT, but convert it into patience.
Yeah.
And
Thanks, Renier. Renier, here's not a question, but more a statement that was put in the chat, and I'd like you to maybe feedback on it. So the comment says there's a conservative society when it comes to online shopping, probably referring to those that's not yet comfortable to share their details online, their card details, and so forth.
yeah, I think there's probably two sides to it. One, I think it's literally that people not being comfortable to buy online. And you know, there's another part to it, is like how we actually end up buying. So I think if you think about shopping behavior, right? If you go to a mall, any mall close by at the end of the month, it's quite crowded, right? And the reason for that is people have some money to spend, and they walk around and they go buy their monthly groceries, and then on the way out they might buy one or two other things that they either need, or in many cases probably don't need, but because they saw it and, you know, impulse is kicked in, they bought it, right? Now, if you take that into an online environment, if you don't want to overspend online, it's very easy. Just don't go to Takealot or to any other e-commerce store. But it's harder when you walk around in-store, right? So in-store still has that advantage of, I pick up a product and I go, this is really nice. And I try and justify in my head that I actually need this right now. Okay. You don't really have that online. What you can do online is obviously use social media to kind of, you know, create aspiration that way, but it's different online. But coming back to people being conservative, I think they're definitely conservative, and you know, they spend their money on their trip that they make to the mall. For a lot of people, actually, I think we need to just, you know, be cognizant of the fact that, you know, for most people in South Africa, like, there's not a lot of disposable income left after they bought what they needed to buy. And also that a trip to a mall once or twice a month is like an activity. It's like they go out to the mall for half a day or a day, and they walk around and they buy the things they need. And it's part of entertainment, if you will. Like, it's a Saturday activity for people. And even though they wouldn't necessarily acknowledge it, if you think about how malls are built and how they're designed, it literally is about the experience. So if you now tell those people, stop doing that experience twice a month and start buying online, I'm like, I'm not sure that's what they want to do. They want to go to the mall, they want to fill the trolley, they want to touch the items, they want to feel it. So that's still a massive role. So anybody considering, you know, that has a retail presence, I wouldn't give up a retail presence simply for e-commerce. I think it's a completely different play. It's a completely different focus, but it's definitely worth considering having both. Just because there's very good advantages in being online and having that presence.
Awesome. Thanks, Renier.